masses.
Yeah.
Right, nonfiction.
Right. And that's been our biggest seller, I think.
Oh, no kidding.
So,
Yeah, it has.
Wow. And so you talked about your novels too, and do you do the graphic novels or?
No, we haven't done that
Anything like
yet.
that big?
We've talked about maybe doing a compilation of, a few books at one point, just to have a hardbound set, But.
Now, do you have any room for a stand-up comic in your comedy stuff?
We can fit you in there.
Absolutely.
So you're going to be continuing to write these comics? You really seem like it's something that's become a real big part of you.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
very much.
It's kind of funny because we're in the comic and then, and we dress the part of our characters in real life, so the lines get blurry sometimes. Yeah, so like I'll put lines that we actually use on each other in the comics, and then things that happen in the comics seem to make their way into our real life sometimes, so it's kind of funny.
Very good. Well, I hope to have you on the show in the future, and I'm certainly I'm going to be seeing you at some of the Comic-Con and signing events and things like that. It's always a pleasure. Saw you a few weeks ago in Concord at an event, which is where we met. And so keep on writing those comic books, and I think you may even have a new place to sell your comic books in the future if things work out well. And pleasure to have Michael and Michelle Mitchell from Mitchell Comics.
Our
and you
pleasure.
can be found, I think we're going to be giving your information under you here, and
Great, thank you.
we'll be glad to have you on again.
Great, thank you very much, Greg.
Thanks for coming out.
It's been fun.
Thanks.
Bye.
Noises like that used to make me hit the deck. But now, I can keep going.
Don't get me wrong, I still don't love crowded places, but it's good to get out again.
Transitioning from the military can be tough, but many veterans are facing similar challenges. Visit MakeTheConnection.net to watch our stories and learn ways to create the story you want to live. Make the Connection.
Welcome to the Bogus Hour, Executive Director of the USS Albacore Museum, Jim Craig.
How are we doing, Greg?
Very good. Well, thank you for coming down from the Portsmouth neck of the woods where you work at the USS Albacore.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Appreciate the invite.
So why don't you tell me about the Albacore?
Well, where to begin? The USS Albacore, built in 1952, commissioned in 1953, and she would serve until 1972. Okay. She's what we like to call the granddaddy of all modern subs. There isn't one submarine in the world today, it doesn't matter which Navy we're talking about, it doesn't take their lines from the Albacore. It was kind of the progenitor, if you will, of a new type of submarine. They were developing her at the time nuclear propulsion was coming into being. And so we realized that our subs are going to be underwater a lot longer.
Because the previous design was essentially a boat.
Exactly.
That most of the time you could actually be above water and then it could go down.
It's a perfect way to describe it. The World War II boats are all, familiar with, like from Run Silent, Run Deep.
Yep.
And all those great John Wayne movies. Those boats were actually surface boats that could just go underwater when they needed to evade or to attack. So they actually only spent about 20% of their time underwater, 80% on the surface. When they went underwater, their top speed was only about 2 to 3 knots. Maybe if you were lucky, you got 5, 7 knots tops. Albacore, well, her top speed is still classified to this day. So we're the museum that goes ahead and we run the Albacore and present her to the world, and we don't even know what her top speed was. But when it comes down to the Albacore, we know that it was over 40 knots.
Wow.
How much more? Couldn't tell you.
So that's a significant change from 3 and 4 and 5.
Oh, yeah, it's like going straight from a Model T to a Maserati.
Right.
It was an enormous leap forward.
And so as you said, it's the teardrop design. It's this. Well, I guess aqua dynamic. It's this design to make it
hydrodynamic.
Hydrodynamic. Sorry about that. I knew you'd correct me on that.
No, but that's exactly what it was. The teardrop-shaped hull. I mean, beforehand they're really awkward, weird kind of configurations. Right. They have a deck on top with guns and everything. But now they realize they're going to be operating underwater. Nuclear propulsion gives you that ability because not only do you only have to refuel every 15 years or so, big advantage, but you also have the fact that you can make your own drinking water with the desalination plant on board. You're producing your own oxygen. You can actually extract oxygen molecules from the water. The only thing that limits a nuclear sub today is food. Exactly. Wow. So, you have to come back to get food. They haven't found a way to
Make
grow
nuclear
food.
food.
Not yet, at least, that we know of. So they have this great ability to go and stay underwater.
But Portsmouth was the place for submarines.
Yep, that it was. We like to think it still is. Congressional budget cuts have changed a little bit. Portsmouth was the first government yard to go ahead and to build submarines. It started in 1915 with a sub called the L-8. It was the first government-built submarine that the Navy used. We hit our peak during the Second World War. During World War II, Portsmouth built more submarines faster than any of the yard. And we had certain advantages. Electric boat, the folks down in Connecticut that build subs today, they don't like to talk about the fact that during the Second World War, they went on strike at one point. So in 1944, at the height of the war, their workers decide that, hey, we don't want to work until we get higher wages. So that was one great advantage that the Portsmouth Yard had. Being government yard, government employees, they couldn't go on strike.
Right.
But that also, though, we have the instance where this is not, we're not saying this is submarine captains. Portsmouth built boats were just better. There was one instance where the sub suffers a horrendous depth charge attack from the Japanese. So bad that the crew in the forward compartment actually concussed and knocked out.
Wow.
When they come to, they find waters pouring in from everywhere. After they go ahead and they get out of there, pump the water out, patch up the leaks, the captain says, you can thank God that you're on a Portsmouth-built boat, because if you weren't, you'd be dead now.
Wow.
So that's the kind of quality that was put
So it had a
into
very good reputation as putting out a quality.
Exactly.
And now it's also many, many years of actual kind of aquatic or nautical history in that neck of the woods, right? That's where they...
It's the first government yard. John Paul Jones, the father of the American Navy, that's where he, of course, is building the Ranger and the America. Portsmouth has
and prior to that, even ships for
the Royal
King.
Navy.
Right?
Absolutely. I mean, the Royal Navy was building vessels at Portsmouth back when we were still a colony.
Right.
So you have this great tradition. You have all these mariners that are in the area, and that knowledge is passed on generation to generation. And that just continued when it came to sub building.
Now, one of the things I find really fascinating about the whole ocean-going world is that it's really, really, really practical. Like, you don't have stuff on boats because they look nice, or you don't have stuff on a sub because it looks nice. Everything is there for a reason, and if it's not practical or useful, or is going to break because the water's going like this, it's not there.
Absolutely correct. When it comes down to a submarine, it's almost like living inside a machine.
Right.
I mean, everything has a purpose, everything has a function. When it comes to one of the things when you go to the albacore, you quickly notice how much room your home or apartment has.
Well, so I actually looked at the berths where the beds are.
Did you jump in the box?
I thought about it, and I did not have a shoehorn, Crisco, or a donkey to kick me into the spot. I realized, boy, oh boy, that is what you call economy of space. I mean, that is, I would have a tough time. I remember there was at one point where I'm walking down one of the halls. I'm like, I think I got to walk sideways. Nope, that's not going to help.
Well, the irony is that today's boats, it's no different. We have mariners who are submariners whose boats are being worked on at the Portsmouth Yard who come over to see the albacore, and when they go through, afterwards they tell us about how, this really isn't any different from what we have on our boats today. Even the linoleum is the same color. It's all the same.
Now, that's 205 feet in length?
Yep.
What's the standard? Well, first of all, one thing is the albacore is that a style of sub now that term is still used for that particular design?
Well, she was the only one of her class.
Okay.
So she is the albacore class.
So,
and I think we should back up a little bit so folks know. Albacore was created specifically for the purpose of testing.
But a research sub.
She was a research boat. Absolutely correct. So she never had any weapon systems. She never did a combat patrol. So all 19 years, the Navy is testing any and every newfangled theory or system they had on board her, except nuclear propulsion.
The single rotor and the double rotor.
The double screws that you see on the back.
Right.
Yep, that was one experiment they did with her. The purpose, which a lot of folks recognize when they go there, it's like, wait, that's weird. Why do you have